Howdy-ho, friends. Welcome to the mods I made to the Lavvu shelter system as of now. Heads up, if I jump up for no reason at all and take off running, that means that snake that was over there is now over here. And as you know, I am definitely afraid of those little guys. Okay, the first mod I made to the shelter system is the internal frame. I originally started out with a tripod of 3 made out of EMT electrical conduit. I didn't like that setup, so I went ahead and went with 4, which worked out perfectly because now it holds up great in high winds. That is more of a base camp setup. I wouldn't recommend carrying it in more than 2 miles. It is heavy and somewhat a pain in the butt. The second mod I made was for the armholes right here. I simply made the spacers that hold that open to let the airflow go through, and that was made out of PVC pipe. Then I took an old tarp, which I found on the Kansas River on a homeless camp, or in a homeless camp, and made a rain fly for it, and that keeps the rain out, and you can keep the front door open with it at the same time, and you won't get too wet. Speaking of wet, this shelter system has been through 8 severe thunderstorms with heavy wind, 1 snow event, and it has not been waterproofed at all. This is all natural. Alright, it's been through 2 severe thunderstorms in a row at the Kansas Meetup with the mods I have on it as of now. We had wind gusts upwards of 60 miles an hour, and it did freaking great. So, with that being said, the thing about canvas tarps is really cool. The better the canvas, the better the tarp is going to be, of course. But when it gets wet, it swells up, and all the little holes in it that would normally leak seal themselves up. Another thing is how you set the shelter system up. If you have it taut, like this one is, the water can run down and run off of it. And oh, heads up, don't get curious and touch it. It really does start leaking on the inside. Found that out the hard way. Alright, the other mod I made to it, which I haven't really shown yet, is I did make a ground tarp for it, or a ground sheet. All I did was set the shelter system up, slid underneath the blue tarp, traced it out, cut it out, and then I finally threw in a couple grommets. But this mod I want to show you right now, I'm really proud of, and it makes things a whole lot easier. So let's go ahead and take a look at it real fast. First thing I got to do is unhook it. I want to show you something here that's kind of important that I've recently learned. How there is 3 sizes of Lavvu shelter systems. How you can tell is the buttonhole, or the grommets. So you say you have 1 grommet, that's a size 1, 2, and then obviously if you have 3 grommets, that's a size 3. I have a size 3 and a size 2, and there's about an inch difference between each one of them. So I want to say if you had a size 1, you would lose about 4 inches right there of space, which honestly is not that big of a deal. Alright, let me show you what I've done. I'm really proud of this. Well, actually, I didn't totally do it. First thing is you're going to notice there is Velcro on there. This is marina grade Velcro, and it's been sewed on both sides of the shelter system. And of course it goes all the way up to the top. I think it's as far as we need to go. Second thing I did is obviously we took all the buttons out. Then this right here, this is the most important mod I think, is I put a zip in there. Now I did make a little mistake when I put these zippers on. I should have went with a 48-inch zipper. Let's get that out of the way. Please excuse my mess. I've kind of got a little bit of everything thrown about in here. Tidy up a bit. Alright, back to, I went with the 72-inch zip, which is fine if you're never going to use it as a poncho again. But if you want to use it for a poncho, I would recommend going with the 48-inch zip. And these are heavy-duty, quality, marina-grade zippers. So they are not going to freaking break. And like I said, she's been through a high wind of upwards of 60 miles an hour, had no problems at all. Another thing a lot of people are going to ask, what is the pole length on the inside? It is roughly 140 centimeters. If you doing the math in my head, comes down to 4 foot 7.118 inches. So I want to say 4 foot about 8 inches. You kind of round up a little bit or round down, somewhere in between there. That's the pole size. And what I did for this is I took my hiking staff and I cut it to the right length, and then that's what I use for my center pole. All right, a couple other things I want to call your attention to here. It's going to be this little guy right here. This is the shoulder pad, and it is a flap. And the big debate is, does this go on the inside of the shelter system or the outside of the shelter system? All right, so I've had this thing in several windstorms of upward of 60-mile-an-hour winds. Now let's think about this for a minute. If we had these shoulder flaps on the outside of the shelter, what's going to happen? Well, as the wind blows, it's going to come in, grab the shoulder flap, and start to lift up on your shelter with that flap there. Eventually, it's going to pull it up out of the ground. Okay. Also, another thing is the sides around the shelter system. It's a good idea during a storm like that to get them low to the ground as you can, and even maybe put some debris on them to keep the wind from lifting this up. If you put the shoulder flap on the inside, that is not going to happen. All right, so as it is, the wind's going to hit the shelter, it's going to go up, and it's going to go around, and it's going to stay on the ground and set up. Now, of course, this is my personal opinion and from my own experiences. You do whatever you guys want. That's awesome. All right, so what we've done here is we've got our zips on this side, and on that side, we've got this really cool freaking Velcro. So I bet you're wondering what the next mod is going to be. Well, since I've got the Velcro on the front or on the halves of the shelter along with the zips, I'm going to go ahead and put Velcro in the armholes along with the zippers. Now, when it was in that storm at the Kansas Meetup, the first rainstorm I had a rain fly on top of it, had no problems at all. The second storm that night, where I took the rain fly off because of the high winds were going to be gusting about 60 mile an hour, and I'm pretty sure it would have blew the tops off the tarp of the shelter system. That storm lasted roughly 2.5 hours. The only problems I had was the leaking was from the front of the shelter system. The main problem is because I did not have the shelter taut enough to let the water run off. It had a little bit of a dip in it. And the back side, it was fine, it was taut, no leaks at all. So I'm going to roll that footage in at the end of this video so you can take a look and see what I'm talking about. So let's go through a quick recap of all the mods I've made so far. And basically we've made the internal frame, and that is 4 sections. We've made the PVC pipe to hold open the arm flaps. We've made the ground cloth on the inside, which comes in real freaking handy, trust me, and put the grommets in it finally. We can call the hiking staff one of the mods, and the mods coming up is going to be the armholes with the Velcro and the zips. Quick heads up, 72 inches if you do not want to use this as a poncho anymore. 48 if you do. Zips you can find on Amazon, really freaking cheap. Sewing them on is a little tricky. If you don't feel confident yourself, I would find somebody that makes marine boat covers. The best person to sew these on. That's who I did. That's who I had do mine. Little tongue twister right there. Well, friends, I think this wraps this here video up. I've shown you what I've done. Comments are more than welcome. Heads up, it does take me a while to answer them. I think that storm front is coming in they were talking about. It must be about 4 o'clock. Yep, we're going to get wet again. It does take me a while to answer them, and I want your honest opinion. Do you agree with me on having the shoulder flaps on the inside, or do you prefer to have your shoulder flaps on the outside? Alright, friends, like always, thanks for watching.
Hey, thanks for watching.
If you like our content,
Feel free to subscribe here.
Don't forget to hit that bell
So you'll get a notification
as soon as a new video is uploaded.
And we hope to
Catch you guys on another video.